Hello and welcome back to the Black Dad Brand Podcast. I'm your host, Jamil Pugh, and I'm back with Jovanie Harris, who's going to talk to us about building support systems. Super important topic. I can't wait to get into the nitty gritty of this. I mean, it really falls into our parenting style component of the Black Dad Brand. And so, folks, follow us on social media. Check us out on YouTube, on all the major platforms when it comes to podcasts, because our content is there, whether that's Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple. We're on those platforms as well. And we're going to be discussing specifically on this platform parenting style, reproductive health, career and finances, and relationship communication. But let's jump right into our podcast with Jovanie Harris on building support systems.
So thank you so much. My name is Jovanie Harris, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about building support systems. First, let's dive in. A couple of objectives I kind of want to get across throughout this little small lesson is I want us to all discover some benefits to building support systems, and then I want to identify some ways that we can build a healthy support system, right? So what is the importance of creating a strong family support system? Let's look at what the data says. Creating support systems is important when parenting a child. It helps in many different ways, such as creating a nurturing environment, creating more emotional stability, providing a sense of belonging. It fosters this, a child's overall well-being and their overall development. But not just that, there's many other benefits as well. That data shows, children who are raised in environments where there's strong support systems, do well in a number of different areas, such as like having better resilience in times of crisis. They do better, with their education and in their learning. There's much more intergenerational bonding going on throughout the family, and through those relationships. And they also tend to have better social support and also, better networking. Or better ability to network, right? Because, think about it, if you're raised in a really supportive environment where you have a lot of support, that's going to provide for you to have like a really strong network. So overall, children who are raised, in strong support systems, they just do better overall. So let's kind of dive in and let's talk about some other benefits more in depth of that we did just discuss. Benefits to providing a healthy support system. So one, it provides emotional support. Emotional support is very important. Parenting can be very challenging. Okay. I'm only 5 years deep in it, going on 6, but it can be very challenging. And having a strong family support system can provide that encouragement and reassurance that you're going to need at times. And, when you're faced with those difficulties and sometimes even doubts, sometimes you can even doubt if you're doing a good job. I just went through that last week. You can also turn to family members and, turn to family members for understanding, for empathy. They can provide guidance as well. You don't want to, sometimes you may want to, not disclose too much, but, especially older parents, they've done some things, right? And so they might be able to provide a little bit of guidance. Also, emotional support helps parents to be able to maintain their own well-being and their own confidence overall. And it can positively impact, in their parenting abilities. You can't parent to your best potential if, if you're not, supported yourself, right? Or if you don't feel good yourself. Also, shared responsibilities. Raising a child is a demanding task. As any parent knows, or as any parent would tell you, it requires a significant amount of time, energy, and effort, right? to raise a child, doing all of the things that it takes to raise a child, and children are very needy, right? A strong family support system allows for parents, to have other individuals in their life that they can share the responsibilities of child rearing. And you're going to need that, right? You can't watch your child all the time, right? In fact, especially if you're married, right? Or, you're trying to strengthen your relationship, you're going to need people to watch your children, right? While you go on a date or something. And, you're going to need people that you can rely on. And, if it's family, that's great. But some people don't necessarily have family, in this area, or some people move to areas that, where they start their life and they're not close to in-laws, right? Because maybe they're, kind of like a transplant, so to speak. So when you have like grandparents, you have aunts, uncles, you have these other relatives that can help step in on some of the childcare responsibilities. It can allow for you to recharge. And this shared responsibility can also reduce your stress, because parenting is also stressful as well. And ultimately it can promote, healthier outcomes, and a healthier work and life, balance, right? Knowledge and experience is also a benefit. You're not in this alone. You're not the only one that's raised children. Older family members can sometimes provide you some valuable knowledge and experience. Now, you also have to be careful too, because sometimes older individuals in your life, they may have a different parenting style, that maybe, we're trying to pivot to, in this new generation, right? And so sometimes that can clash. So be mindful of that. Also getting this, having these conversations with older individuals in our lives can give us more insight into effective parenting strategies. They may have some wisdom, though, that might even be invaluable in providing some guidance. They might be able to offer some suggestions. They might even be able to help us navigate some very tough situations. I am, my child is only 5 years old, but, I envision a time where I'm going to have to talk to my, mother and my father about, parenting a teenager, right? As they approach those teen years, and how, what to expect there. But ultimately, a strong family support system can, allow for parents to tap into that collective wisdom. And you've heard the term, it takes a village to raise a child. It absolutely does. Also, cultural and familial values. When you're creating strong family support systems, you can help to transmit those cultural and familial values from one generation to the next, especially when you're talking about, traditions, customs, beliefs. These are all important to someone's identity and someone's heritage. These values can contribute to a child's sense of belonging, and their cultural awareness and their understanding of their roots. And so by maintaining these strong family connections, you're basically preserving these values, and you're helping to instill them into your children. And this is very valuable, especially when you're talking about not just values, and sometimes not just traditions. Sometimes this can consist of also, language, right? So you have to be mindful of a lot of those things. Role modeling is another benefit. When children are witnessing and able to see this strong family support system that you're able to provide, they're able to learn, just by being around you, just by having those family bonds. They're having these positive communications, and they're seeing cooperation amongst multiple individuals. They're seeing mutual respect amongst family members. These experiences help to role model for children, how they want to shape their own families and their own future relationships. And it can prove very significant in ultimately creating an environment, a loving environment for children. Also, socialization and community building is also important. This can involve relatives, close friends, like we mentioned earlier, or just trusted individuals that you have in your life that are in your support system. Sometimes this can consist of coworkers, right? Now, everyone, moves differently. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people are like, my coworkers are just my coworkers, right? But sometimes individuals, their coworkers are like their family, and so, if you have, depends on your network, right? Having this network kind of also helps to expand your child's social circle, right? They now have a wider friend base, when you are providing this, support system, because now the people in their lives, people that are in your support circle, these individuals have people in their support circles, right? And so they're bound to interact with one another at family functions, get-togethers, birthday parties, things like that, right? It can prove to provide some meaningful relationships, and so children just ultimately benefit from that broader community of caring individuals, caring adults, and it just ultimately enhances their social skills and their emotional well-being and their overall well-being. So, as you think about that, Jamil, like, what do you think about, like, some of the benefits? Like, because I know that you have a very strong support circle, in your life. And so, after us going through that, can you think of something that, before we move on to building healthy support systems, can you think of something that's been really pivotal for you that we did discuss? That's been really important for you in your support circle?
Yeah, when I think about it, a strong support system, I think, not only for the benefits for myself, but the benefits for my children. They feel supported. They feel like they have a village behind them, other people encouraging them, showing up to their gymnastics or to, their swim activities. And so
Mm,
I love the interaction that my daughter has with her grandmother and her grandpa, and just, feeling like, oh, they're coming to see me and they feel special. So I think it builds that self-efficacy and that self-value in the children, right? And then also,
mm-hmm,
like you said, the communication, being able to kind of have a discussion with your parents or people who are not your parents, just maybe it's your peers, who can give you new ways and new ideas and things to think about when it comes to rearing children. One of the things that came up in terms of educating my daughter, a friend of him was telling me that, he has this child in Kumon, which is a learning uh, extracurricular program, and it starts as early as 2.5. I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was a high school or maybe middle school educational program, and I would consider him a part of my support system. He was like, "Yeah, you should really think about getting your daughter into that." And so the next day, I went and signed her up. So I mean, there's so many different values of nuggets and wisdom, or ways to deal with problems, or even maybe it's other activities and things that you can do with your child to kind of build different skills or build interests, or just fun and safe ways and activities. So I think there's a variety of things that come to mind when it comes to supporting your kids and getting ideas. I think for me, is one of the big important elements of that is just being open and willing to listen and to ask questions of others
mm-hmm,
to see what worked and what didn't work for them, right? And maybe some advice as to how you can apply. And so, that support system is also a sounding board for you to kind of reflect some ideas and get some find out where your blind spots are, or things you may not have thought about, so that you can devise an effective strategy to do what's best for your kids. And so, to me, it's like putting your pride aside and saying, okay, I can use some information from others so that I can, be the best parent that I can.
yeah. I like how you touched on, like, what works for some individuals is not going to work, necessarily for you. So you have to
Mhm.
you have to devise your own strategy based on your own experience with your own children, right? And all children are different. So, excellent. I just wanted to touch on that before you moved on to building, healthy support systems, right? We talked about the benefits, and I think everyone, unanimously wants a support system. Oftentimes you hear people may complain that they don't have a support system, and or their support system that they thought they had isn't strong enough, isn't doing enough, right? So unanimously, most people want a support system that's strong and healthy. But what are some ways that we can build them for ourselves, that anyone can build them for ourselves? So I wanted to break it down to just 5 because there's so many different strategies.
Okay.
First, I wanted to talk about just being the support that you're seeking. Okay. That's important. We teach people how to treat us, right? So one thing that we can do is, if you want a support system, oftentimes you might hear of a babysitting exchange system. Hey, bring your kids over so y'all can have a date night. We'll watch the kids, right? Ultimately, that leads to a family, a village of individuals that will look out for one another when it comes to childcare, right? Now you've got carpools, to school, right? Mutual carpools. I'll take the Wednesday and the Friday. You take the Monday and the Wednesday, right? And so you have to ultimately be the person that you want to be in your life, in your support system. You have to be that to others and be that to others around you. And that's first and foremost. So before you complain that you don't have a great support system, make sure that you're being a support system to others, because that's going to help others be a support system to you. Okay. So those are just some ideas. Also, move your relationships to a deeper level. Really focus on those who support you. Okay. A lot of times we may want support, and it's sad. It really is that, everyone has their own way of loving, and they've learned their way of loving, in their lives. Everyone doesn't do it to your liking. Sometimes it might be your own family, it might be the grandmother, that you feel like is not doing enough, right? It might be, the granddad, that you feel like is not doing enough, right? But then you have your friend, your close friend, who's just like always there for you, always there for you. And so you have to focus on those who support you. Really foster those relationships, because that's your circle. That's your support circle, right? Also, be clear in communicating your expectations to individuals. Too many times, just in relationships in general, we aren't clear about our expectations of our friendships and our relationships, what we expect in return, or how we expect our relationship, how we expect to have mutual support for one another, what mutual support for one another looks like. So be very clear in your expectations with individuals and really move those relationships to a deeper level. Share with others what they mean to you. Now, give folks their flowers, right? Too often, especially as Black folks and Black men, we don't give each other their flowers enough. Okay. And then we wait to give them their flowers over their grave, right? And so let's not do that. Let's make sure that the people in our lives that are supporting us, that are there for us, that show up for us, make sure we let them know how much they mean to us, because that's going to help to foster a deeper relationship and a more meaningful one. We touched on this earlier, but don't forget about coworkers, neighbors, and others. Now, before you even get started, I know some of y'all are thinking, I don't hang out with my coworkers, and my kids ain't going to my neighbor's house, like, because you don't know my neighbors, right? But it just depends. Everybody's situation is different. Okay. You might have coworkers that are really cool. You might even have coworkers that you knew before you even worked there, right? So they're like family in essence, right? So every situation is different. Um, think about all the benefits of these individuals, though. Your neighbors, your coworkers, right? These are people that you interact with daily. You have so much interaction with them. So it's, if you can create a healthy relationship with them and add them as a part of your, support circle, you know, use that. I mean, I remember at our, at our old house, we this isn't necessarily childcare related, but this is a part of that support system, right? When we were out of town, we had a dog. The dog had to get let out, and our neighbor, we were so cool with the neighbor, and we just throw the teenager a couple bucks and he would go take care of that for us, right? And they're also looking out for the house. They're looking out for things. There were times where, you're just rushing out the house because you're just, you're scrambled and you're, because you got kids, right? You got to put the kids in, you got to, you're taking off and you're late. And, your neighbor calls you and says, hey, you left your garage open. You know what I mean? And they're there to look out for you, right? And so don't forget about these individuals because, they can also create, additional assistance and also create an additional safe space for you and your family, right? They're also maybe easy to add to your schedule because of their proximity. So, if they're your neighbor and you need them to drop the kids off for a couple hours so you can run some errands or something like that, that can be done because they're so close. This is just something that might not be too convenient for them, but it's like, if they're home or not, right? So you can just ask, you ain't got to ask, hey, are you home? They can't lie because I see your car outside.
Yeah.
um, Also, consider a family child care provider or the school organization. Just recently we have been taking advantage of a program at our school, a great program, and it allows, it's like an after school program, and it's introducing them to STEM, it's introducing them to all these different activities, it's workout activities, things like that. And so it allows for us to get that little bit of additional time that we need, to work a little bit more, or decompress from coming back from work, right? So they're a part of our support system now, right? They're also, especially if they're your school, they're already partners in educating and raising your children, essentially, because they're spending so much time with your child. So they can just provide that additional assistance, and it could be that extra like buffer for you, so if you will. Also, really focus on getting involved in school activities that are provided, and really try to maintain positive relationships with the staff, because now this allows for you to have, you're able to check in on your child, what they're doing, how they're doing, right? How's their behavior, making sure that things that you want to instill in them are consistent with what they are doing as well, right? You can keep that constant communication with them. And then also, let's be mindful, let's avoid toxic people, right? Let's focus on positive individuals, okay, in our lives. If it's an individual in your life that, and I know this is very easy to say, avoid toxic people, right? But um, notice the consistencies, okay? Everybody's relationship is not the same. Some people are in, everything from the long happy marriages to the individuals who are just dating, had a child together, co-parenting, all the different spectrums of parenting. You might have drama in your own life, right, with individuals that it may be hard to escape, okay? keep that in mind, because you want to help to build a healthy support system for your child. And if an individual is not providing that great support system, then you might want to limit the amount of time that you spend with them, right? Or create boundaries around that time, because you really have to protect that space. Remember, it's okay to be cordial, but you don't have to be close. And remember that if you're trying to create healthy relationships and healthy support systems for your child and for your parenting, you have to really be intentional about your relationships. You have to really be intentional. You have to really be thinking about, what does this person bring to my life, right? Bring to my family, bring to my support system. And if they're not providing anything, if they're just taking, right? You might want to, create boundaries around that relationship.
Real quick though, I think also it's important to, like you say, avoid toxic people because of the impact and influence that they may
Mm,
have on your child. And you might be the reason that, because you introduce this person, you allow this person to spend time with your kid, that they negatively influence your child by saying certain things, bringing up certain things, acting a certain
yeah,
way, and you
yeah,
wonder how your child got those behaviors. So you start to think through, like, damn, how did this individual impact my child or myself? Like, how did I
yes,
get involved with something that I don't need to be spending my time on? And so those formative years is incredibly important, like you say, to be intentional around who you bring your kid around, and even their kids, and how they interact with your child. So avoiding toxic, I mean, it just goes back to that saying of, like, you know uh, the best way to not get involved with problems is to avoid them before they start. Don't get yourself in
yeah,
it. So I think this is one that really strikes a nerve with me, because we're very intentional about the community that we bring our child around and the time and who they spend it with. So it is important.
absolutely, absolutely. You got to be intentional. That's at a certain point in your life, especially when you talked about parenting, you have to only create relationships that you plan on really investing in. And that those individuals that you have a relationship are feel invested in you.
Yeah.
That's really important too. So it's just really important. It becomes really important in parenting, and like you said, the formidable years. It's a lot to there's a lot to unpack. I mean, this is just a little bit of information, and I'm happy to share it with you. But this is just a little bit of information about how we can kind of create better and healthier support systems for ourselves, and that anybody can pretty much implement, any of these strategies. So, thanks for having me on.
Well, we really appreciate you guys paying attention and following us and consuming this content. We endeavor to bring about information that's so useful for Black dads and their parenting journey. So, again, stay tuned, follow us, subscribe, and also sign up for our new email list. We will be sending you targeted information to help you where you are in your parenting journey. It's so important to stay connected, and we appreciate you as an audience. We'll see you in the next episode.